So tonight we are welcoming Rooster Blackspur to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. And we are curious, where are you right now? Because we know you have lived in Alaska and New Mexico and Nashville. Are you actually in Nashville now?
I am in Nashville right now. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
We are
loving
also,
it.
oh, good.
Good.
Yeah.
We are also very curious about the name Rooster. How did that come
Yes.
about?
Well, I have kind of an old family lore story
Very cool.
about a rooster. I don't know if you've ever had a rooster or a pet rooster or
Yes.
Yep.
basically they're the same guy, right? Different name, different yard, same guy,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
A lot of us have scars on our hands or faces
Uh-huh.
from our roosters, right?
Yes.
So my rooster was no different. That's what roosters do. And my mom just had it up to her eyeballs one day with this rooster and decided to drag him to the chopping block and be done with him. And I was really young. And so this was a very, what do they call it? Like a core memory,
Yeah.
my mom
Yes.
like dragging a rooster to the chopping block. And I loved my rooster. I even though he
Oh,
was, even though he was a mess in a lot of ways. So I was kind of pleading for his life and got locked in the house and my mom goes to do this deed and it looked for a second like he had given up and was kind of, conceding his fate. And then at the very last minute, he just reared up and proceeded to just beat the living tar out of my mom. And this story has grown and become a lot of, so I don't even know at this point what the real story is because the way I remember it is now like basically like watching Rocky win a
yes.
boxing match, right? It's like
Oh
in
my
my
gosh.
memory now, it's like this victorious thing that happened. Um, but this picture in my mind of like tenacity, right? Like not giving up even when you think you're next on the chopping block. That vision of that rooster fighting for his life has come back to my life many, many times. And my life has taken me on a lot of those journeys where it's really taken me down to where I thought maybe this is it. Maybe I'm not getting through this particular situation. And that tenacity, something in us rises up and says, not today, not on my watch. And
Yeah.
so he ran off and got away, and he's probably terrorizing a family somewhere down the road, till his final days. But
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
wrote a song called "The Rooster," and people just love that song, and it's about the rooster, and it's about people giving people a run for their money in the right ways in life, with our love and our courage and our willingness to not back down from being a good force in the world. So people started calling that to me. They would see me and they would go, Rooster, because they wanted to hear that song. But I
So
liked how it
great.
sounded to be like, yeah, I'm Rooster. Yeah, that's right. Call me Rooster. And so it just stuck. It was just one of those things that stuck over time. And now I don't I always tell people unless you're the judge or the DMV, don't call me anything but Rooster.
I love it.
That is an amazing story.
It really is.
Gosh, I love that. We grew up on a farm, so
Yes.
we
Oh,
also
okay, so you get
had
it.
some
We had
Yeah.
roosters.
we had three. We had three roosters and one poor hen.
Yeah.
It's just what happened.
They say that three is the magic number when it comes to
It is.
roosters.
Oh, well, ours
That
were still jerks.
oh well, like they say if you have two, they'll fight for the
Yeah.
who's in charge. But if there's three of them, they kind of understand that
Yeah,
like
they
it's like a
that's
little
that's fair. They didn't fight each other, they just fought us. They did
yes,
not like the people.
yes,
It's fair. So thinking of that tenacity and sticking with it, I know that you made a big move to Nashville and
hmm
you recorded your first album in Nashville. Tell us about the move and Cinderella Sessions and all of that.
yeah. So I left Alaska 15 years ago. That was kind of my big pivotal moment in my life to take my music out of Alaska and into the lower 48 is what we call it down here. Um, and so ever since I took that leap, my life has really been leading me. It's like follow your heart. That's a very cliche thing, but really I answer to the call of my heart. And so my life led me to Oregon for a while and then New Mexico. And then this really, kind of out of the blue, somebody just felt really compelled that I should go to Nashville and make a record there. And so they paid for my studio time, they said, you got to pay for your own hotel, you know, and get yourself there, but I'll pay for
Wow.
your studio time if you show up to Nashville. They were like, I just can't shake this feeling that you need to take your music to Nashville. So, you know, I had never, honestly, it's weird to say that after being a musician for 20 years touring, Nashville never hit my radar for some reason. It just was never a place that I thought I should go. Maybe I had an idea that just only country singers were here or something. I don't know. It just never came up. It just wasn't on my scope. And so I was, you know, driving across Kansas, which is not the most inspiring drive. Sorry, Kansas.
We get it. We're from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally the same.
Yep.
And I was like, what is happening? I'm driving to Nashville. It's so weird, you know? So we, you know, me and my boyfriend, who's also my drummer, a phenomenal drummer, came out and made this, you know, this record. And we just had kind of a very typical Nashville experience, I think, where as a songwriter and a musician, you realize this is the land of songwriters. And there's so much history here, and so many people have come here, and so many people bring their dreams here. And instead of there being kind of a competitive nature to the scene here, there's such an encouraging spirit amongst other artists. And when people find out that you're a songwriter, like in a restaurant or a parking attendant, they don't say something cynical like, oh yeah, well, my buddy's been in a band for 20 years, never had, you know, they don't say that. They're like, oh my gosh, what's your name? And I'll look you up and I wish you luck. There's just this there's still a belief that music is magical here, you know? And the other thing that just did me in was everywhere we went was original music. I mean, going out every night and hearing original thoughts, original feelings, somebody's scope on life, where somebody has been in life and how they put a phrase together, that did me in. Because I'm sorry, as they say here, sorry, y'all, but I have heard some of these songs that we play in cover bands now for 20 some odd years. I'm hearing the same songs every time I go out. And I know that there's a place for that and there's, you know, a thing for that. But for me, I'm like, but I've heard that already, you know? And so I go out here every week. Every week I go out and try to hear original music, because to me, it's just, I feel like I've been starved for it. And I just, you know, and I'm having those experiences now where I'm being moved by people that I've never heard of, that aren't famous, but, you know, move me with a song. And it feels like a playground, you know?
Yes.
So, you know, we came, you know, it's kind of like a love story in some ways. It's like we came the first time, made 4 tracks, drove back to New Mexico, listened to the tracks we made the whole way home over and over and over. And we were like, what did we just do? What just happened? and then we showed it to somebody else and they said, well, you got to go back and make 3 more and make it a record and I'll pay for it. And so another person donated money to another patron stepped up, and, you know, which is really what artists have to rely on right now because of the way everything's changing. We really, really relying on patronage. So we drove back and had another magical experience in the same studio, met different people, you know, had another, like, this place is ridiculous. We didn't just have a one-time, you know, a one-off. You ever had an experience like that where you're like, that was so cool. Oh. And then you go back to do it again. You're like, man, wasn't that cool that second time? That wasn't how it was. The second time we came back, it was just as cool. And people started saying things to us like, you know, if you're writing songs like this, you should probably live in Nashville. Very cool. Yeah, we made this decision kind of pretty quick, honestly. I mean, first time I came out was June. Second time we came out was July. And I moved here in October.
Wow. Yeah. That is one of the coolest things. Like, I'm always talking about, I need a benefactor. So to hear that you like had patrons that were like, yes, let's record it. And I can, hearing your music, I can understand why, because I could totally get behind that. But I think that is like the coolest story.
And the cool thing about, we are the same about Nashville. I went there and we didn't go, you know, we went to Broadway for a little bit, but we knew there's other places to go. The original music is outside of Broadway.
Yes,
and
that's
every
right.
time my friends say, so I'm like, go to Broadway, do it one day, maybe 2, and then get out around. There's
exactly.
So, like, amazing talent in that city.
Yes.
It's so fun.
Yes. Everyone's bringing their A game here. You know, nobody's phoning it in Nashville.
It's true.
You know,
it's true.
Nobody's like, wah, you know, like they're all like, you know, stepping up. And I suppose it's kind of like athletes, perhaps, right? You know, it's like when we watch the Olympics, we're all inspired, right? Because they're bringing their greatness. They're aspiring to be great. They want to be the greatest. And they let themselves feel that. They let themselves say that by walking out onto something like the Olympic court, right? And I think as musicians and artists, you know, we're kind of trained to be, kind of hard on ourselves, and we try to be humble, and everybody's afraid to have an ego, and so nobody wants to feel super great about themselves. And so it's sometimes it's hard to admit you want to be great at something. Sometimes it's hard to say out loud, perhaps to the people around you, especially when you're starting out as a musician, like, I want to be great at what I do. Good is the enemy of greatness, right? And so I don't want to just be good. I want to be great at what I do. And I want to be around people that make me want to go home and practice my instrument.
Yes.
I remember that happening when I saw the milk carton kids for the first time. Yeah. My mouth was open, awesome. And I was like, I'm going home practicing. Yes. That was my response to seeing that kind of musicianship between two people. It was like, well, crap, we got to get to practicing, kids. I want that in my life. And that's definitely Nashville. It's an inspiring place, and there's such great talent here that it raises the bar in your own life and in your own musicianship. You can feel where you need to. I had that very first time I had that experience was in the studio. The studio is like a magnifying glass. It really shows you where you need to work on your artistry, and where you have, maybe some laziness that you've been hiding behind a live experience, and the studio kind of goes, woo, look at that under this magnifying glass, And so I love the studio for that reason, because it really informs my live performance. So being around the energy here all the time is just, I can't say enough about it. I wish I would have come here 20 years ago, but I really feel like now is the time in my life where I'm supposed to be here.
But I'm so excited that you are there and for the album, which is amazing.
So I'm going to go way back to, how did you originally get into music? What started you off on this path?
Yeah, well, as early, our memories as far back as they go. I mean, as far back as I can pull a memory, I was singing songs and hearing songs in my head. And as a little kid, I was writing songs. And so I treated songs like they were almost like invisible butterflies, that if I would be quiet, they would land on me and I could hear what they were trying to tell me. And I could hear the words and the melodies. And sometimes as a little kid, I would hear a word in my head and I wouldn't know what it meant. So that was the day, kids, when we had a book called Dictionary. And and I would actually go flip into the dictionary and look up a word, and I would realize that it did mean what I was feeling. So it was very easy for me to feel like songs were given to me. They came to me. Almost. And so I actually, what's interesting about your podcast is I used to call myself a keeper of the song. I didn't have a term, the songwriter, right? I thought I was a keeper of songs. I was somebody that songs came to, and I would keep them and capture them. So that was my kind of young child experience with songs. And then church was really the only place in my life at the time. I was born and raised in Alaska and in a small town. That small town's not small anymore, but at the time it was when I was little. And really my whole life kind of was my home, the wild woods behind our house, and then church. And that was kind of my universe. And so church was really the only place I got to use my voice. And that's definitely still like the influence of, raised voices in the spirit of love is still in my music. I wouldn't consider myself a religious person, but I would say that I'm a spiritual person, and that the essence of what I'm creating is a loving space inside of a song that people can come inside of.
Love it. I mean, to me, and I would imagine for most music lovers, that music is a spiritual experience.
Yes, absolutely.
So I mean, it's just I don't know, there's some sort of connection between songs and people. And that, like you were saying, the idea of being the music collector, which I think is just precious. I love that.
Well, and you see the power. I see the power that songs have. I mean,
Yes.
and maybe not all artists probably come at it the same way. I think all of us have really different motives for why we do what we do. But I see the way that music has this power. And so I've always considered it a responsibility, that it's not just something I take lightly, you know.
Yeah.
It has an influence on how somebody feels or the way they think, or whether they leave a show, you know, elated and full, or whether they leave a little sad and depressed because, you know, you took them down too far. You
Yeah.
know, as a performer, you really have that, you know, you have that influence in a live setting, even in a little bar or a little, you know, venue somewhere. You can really alter someone's reality
Oh,
for a couple of
100%.
hours, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's something I take really seriously. And I take a lot of time on the lyrics of my songs. Yeah, I ask the song. I don't ask myself. I ask the song over and over. Am I saying what you came here to say? Is this how we want to say it? You know, it's like, make sure those words are right, you know.
Yeah, that's lovely. So, what do you think is the hardest part about being a musician and being a songwriter?
Boy, that's a hard one because there's actually a lot about it that's hard. Um, I think there's a lot of sensationalism around songwriting. And so I think in this current climate, especially, there's not a lot of focus on the craft of becoming. And for whatever reason, I was always really self-aware. I think being raised around wilderness, that it really helps you. I guess you guys know living on a farm, right? Like when you live a little closer to earth and animals,
Yes.
you have a little bit of that self-reflection where you're like, where do I belong among the wild things, right? Like, where am I at in the scope of, am I a little sprout? Am I a big tree yet? You know, I think we're rushing musicians through their process too quickly. And we're all trying to get, you know, full grown when really we've just begun in a lot of ways. And so we're not giving a lot of value to someone who's put the time into their craft. And why are we on stage? Why are we writing? What are we trying to say? Right. So right now I feel like we're just kind of cluttered. You know, there's a lot of noise and a lot of clamor around artists. And I remember having this experience, and you know, maybe this is taboo for your podcast, but I was on
Nothing's taboo.
I was on
Nothing's
mushrooms.
taboo.
Let's just be honest. I was on mushrooms with my friends, and I was having this really sweet night where we were just sharing conversation, and you know, our heart spaces were really open. And I said something. I said, "Well, that's this how it is in the music business." And when those words came out of my mouth, the music business, I said, "Oh my God, somebody put a business around music." And I just started weeping. I just had this, I just wept that it was like caging a wild animal. Somebody put a business around music. Why? What did we do that for? You know?
Yeah.
And so we're wrestling this business as artists when what we want to do more than anything is give, you know. And I think there's this idea that artists, you know, we want to just get, give me fame and give me money and give me, but there's a lot of us who have taken that time with our craft, and we've crafted this gift we're trying to give you.
Yeah.
And I don't see a difference when we're talking about it on a grand scale, right? I don't see that differential, you know, conversation happening, that like, this is a sensational product we're selling you. And that's fine if you say, make me a product and sell me if you want to do that. But here's someone who crafted themselves into something to give to another human heart. And so it's hard to be kind of clumped in and say we're all the same.
Yes.
You know,
No, that's it does. It makes sense. And it's, you know, it's what you were talking about, the idea of, you know, listening to what the song says to you. You know, if you're rushing through all of the things and the focus isn't on the actual process,
Yeah.
then what do you have? Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. It's just a business, and there's so much that artists have to do to promote themselves and do, the social media and all of the things, when what you really want to do is create. Like, I want to
Yeah.
create things.
Well,
So
I mean, again, to date myself, 15 years ago when I left Alaska to pursue music full time, there was this brand new invention called an iPhone.
right.
Right? That was only 15 years ago. I mean, when you really think about this, like 15 years ago, I left Alaska to pursue music full time. There was no app called the YouTube app.
Right.
Facebook didn't have video or pictures. It just had us checking in with what we had for breakfast or saying weird one sentence check ins because we weren't sure what this thing even was.
Yeah.
Right. To what we're doing now, which y'all is a full time job.
Oh, yeah.
It's a full-time job to be a content creator
Yeah.
and what if I have a face like a hatchet and I don't want to put my face out on social media, but I'm talented as hell, right?
Yeah.
Like I really don't like talking about it a lot because you don't want to sound like a whiner, but that's a lot of change in a really short amount of time, you know, to where again it's more of that, like now I have to be an entertainer and I have to be a sensational. What if I'm a quiet person? What if I'm a shy person? What if I don't want to put my personal life on video? What if I want to just share the music?
What if you
What
want
if
the music to speak for itself?
Yes. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
So
and fighting
true.
it doesn't do anything really right now. I mean, it's too big of a machine to fight necessarily. When we start to really bitch about Spotify, well, I still got to have people over there because festivals now are looking at your Spotify numbers and your Instagram numbers before they're even going to listen to your music. So I can't tell people not to support Spotify.
Yep.
Because then I'm shooting myself in the foot. I'm not going to get booked at festivals if nobody's listening to me on Spotify. So your arms are tied right now on a lot of these, in these big, moguls that have kind of got us playing their game for them. And so we kind of have to reach the people we're trying to connect with, which is what I said. I was setting out to find the people that needed what I make.
Yeah.
I wasn't setting out to become famous or to be worshipped by humanity. I believe, and I still believe there are people that I haven't reached yet that want to hear what I make, and that a song that I've written is going to hit them and hit their life in a certain way where they need it most. And so that's what drives me to get up every morning and make these posts on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
Is where are my people? I know you're out there and I'm trying to reach you. Yeah. If you haven't heard of me, it's not like I haven't been trying to reach you, but there's just a lot more, I'm climbing way more mountains now, so it's become quite a wilderness to traverse, just to get a simple song to another human heart. So
that feels like the right motivation though, not that I want to be famous. I want to be, because fame is fleeting, but getting your art out there to the people that need it is that's your legacy. That's your legacy. So
yeah, absolutely. Perfect. And some people who do that do end up famous.
Yeah. And some don't.
And some don't. Yeah. Yep. I think there's a lot of different tiers of what you would consider success too,
subjective for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, well, what comes next? We know you have the new album out. Are you doing lots of touring? What's coming next for you?
Yeah, we toured. We did this record kind of right at the end of the summer and we got it done quick. We actually, most all of the tracks on that record are the board mixes.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think only 2 of them are actually remixed. So we were just like, you know what? It was a moment in time. We had this crazy thing happen. We had patrons go, get to Nashville. We went to Nashville. We said, okay. And, rather than being that artist, it's like, well, we could redo that. And I got to do, it was like, nope, it was a moment in time. Let's just, and because we did it old school Nashville style where we were all in the room and we recorded it all together. So it was like, you know what, let's just put it out and get on the road and share this record. And so we toured it last summer. And then we're actually already in the studio right now, starting a different record. Yeah. With a whole new batch of songs that will be very different from, Nashville Cinderella Sessions. Because I've never been to Nashville, I went through my catalog of unrecorded songs, which were around 40 songs that I haven't recorded yet. And I was like, which ones are the countryest Nashville and, like which are going to be like Nashville and all the way. Right. Cause I just didn't know anything about this place, So, I kind of picked out ones that maybe were more country or had more of that potential, to sit in those clothes. But this next record will probably be, I don't even really know how to describe it. It's going to be a lot bigger. The tracks are going to be a lot bigger. It's going to be a big record. It has some big songs. It has some like stadium songs, where it's
exciting.
Like, these songs are coming out big. They're, and I don't mean like, I just mean their energy. Their energy is really big and commanding. And I think that's just where I'm at in my life too, So it's exciting to be writing some of the biggest, strongest songs of my life and be in Nashville for that chapter,
It's the Rooster energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
We're meant to go there,
yes,
at this specific time. And it feels like fate. And I love that kind of stuff.
I do
yes.
too.
I was just telling my boyfriend, Sam, that too. I was like, I wouldn't have wanted to be here 10 years ago. I wasn't ready for that. I mean, there were so many things in my life that had to happen, to even be writing these songs and to be ready to carry them personally on stage. And I think I am really, really right on time, right where I need to be. And I love that feeling. Life, if you really follow your heart, like I said, I've really been a pioneer when it comes to like follow your heart, even into the great unknown and the wilderness, it will never let you down. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy and that everything's going to be peaches and pie, but your heart really can lead you on an amazing adventure, and my life has really led me through quite a few different transitions and, things in the moment that were like, what the hell? And then it all makes sense. It starts to all make sense and coalesce. And I was this move to Nashville right before that was a pretty dry spell where I really didn't know, like kind of felt like I was in the ocean with no land in sight for almost a whole year. I was just like, what is next? Where am I going? What am I doing? Does anyone even want to hear from me?
So it was the perfect timing.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, we're going to ask you our big 4 questions for season 4.
Okay.
You're part of season 4. So, first gig that you had and your best or favorite gig that you've done. And that could include like favorite place. First gig first, though.
First gig first. Okay. Well, this isn't this is really morbid. My first paying gig was actually at a funeral home. And I was hired to sing hymns next to a casket, open casket, while the families would come in and say their goodbyes before going to a graveyard.
Oh, wow.
And I think about that from time to time, how the energy of empathy is so important, to be able to put yourself in people's position in life or think about how it feels to be somebody else. And that was I was young, I was a teenager, and it was such an intense experience to be singing these songs while people were in their deep grief. And so right after they would pass the casket, the first thing they would do is look me in the eye.
Oh my gosh.
But it was a really powerful experience too, that like, I can't speak to you in words because I'm playing a song, but I can communicate with my heart, my eyes, the sounds coming out of my voice, the way that I'm playing. I can be here with you in whatever you're going through, even if I can't totally understand it. Right.
Yeah.
So that was a really, I would say that's way more intense than having a bar gig at first,
Yes. Yes.
But, but I always try to think about who's in my room when I walk into who's in the room tonight. There's probably somebody having a great day. There's probably somebody going through something really hard. There could be someone who got drugged here tonight by someone else because they haven't left the house in 3 months because they're in such a bad state, right? Like I try to really think about giving the room what it needs that night, and trying to understand that everybody might need something a little different, and making sure that I sing something in every night that tries to get at least everybody who's in the room. So yeah, that was my first gig. Oh, my best gig.
Or favorite so far?
Yeah. So far is a good qualifier.
Oh my goodness. I'm just going to say this one gig. We played a show in Sedona, Arizona, and it was a concert park series. And I have never toured in Sedona, so I had no pre-existing fan base there at all. So it was just one of those, hey, come play our concert series, and I had no idea who would show up. And, the stage is set up on a hill looking out over the Red Rock Valley. And it's in this little amphitheater. And so we're in the warm air of the desert with this beautiful view. It's right at sunset. The sunset is purple and pink. And we were able to bring a full band, and all these people came. There was hundreds of people that came to this concert having no idea who we were. And we had the best time together with that audience. It was like we were all friends, and we were all just having some kind of reunion or something, and I love it when strangers become friends and family. That's one beautiful thing about being a musician, is that, you really all walk in a room, not quite knowing what to size up about each other. Audience is really not sure about me. I'm not really sure about them. And by the end of the night, we're all in the same space. And and we leave in that togetherness, which I just love more than anything.
Sedona has an energy. It is a like magical place.
Yes. Yeah. It's
and I would consider myself a desert person, even though I only lived in New Mexico 7 years. I felt like I reconnected with a part of my soul that maybe was born in the desert or something. And so, the desert shaped me in a really interesting way, living there, and forever will be part of my heart. And so I'm always going to say yes to a 100-degree show in the middle of the desert somewhere. Absolutely.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. Question 2 of the 4. Who are your influences?
Ooh, well, me. I like to say that because
more people should say that.
I actually knew my own voice before I knew anyone else's, just being raised the way that I was. I wasn't exposed to a lot of other music. So I got to know my own voice and my own songs before I heard another voice and another, turned on the radio or whatever. So I'm my first influence. And I would say maybe somebody that inspires me a lot as a songwriter is David Gray.
Oh, yeah.
I was 21 and I was working a night shift from 6 at night till 6 in the morning. It was like a 12-hour shift. And when his voice came on the radio and I listened to those words that he wrote, I waited hours before that song came back around and they finally said who that artist was. Again, kids, that was before the internet and we could Google it.
Right.
So true.
There was no Shazam back then. Can you even imagine?
Oh,
but yeah,
it is hard to imagine.
I think he inspires me with his emotion and his willingness to say the thing.
Yeah. He's a really cool voice too. So yay. I love that. Okay, what are you listening to on repeat currently?
Well, I don't want to sound like a narcissist, but I am currently listening to the songs we just recorded, a couple days ago. And this is kind of what we do, right? We like obsess with the things that we currently like just recorded and get familiar with every little nuance of those songs, like memorizing where each little part could be a little bit more massaged. I'm also, I'm trying to think of my playlist right now. I'm also listening to, this is funny, Imagine Dragons. I mean, I know that he had his kind of heyday a while ago where his songs were really like big. But I get ready in the morning by getting myself like ready for the day. I do a little bit of air boxing and I do a little bit of like get the energy up and and feel like that like that rooster energy, like let's start this day right. Let's start it with a crow, right? And his music really gets me going. It really gets my blood pumping, and it gets me like feeling like I can face anything, and I think he got out of, didn't he get out of religion? He got out of Mormonism.
I believe that's correct.
He's a survivor of indoctrination as well.
Yep.
So yeah, there's some little secret messages in there for survivors that if you're one of them, you can hear it in his music. And so, yeah, I'm inspired by Imagine Dragons.
Love it.
Okay. What advice would you give to new musicians and or songwriters?
Ooh, this is good. I would really love it if new songwriters would not allow anybody to drape their cynicism on them, right? I think it's one of the worst things people do who have experience in the music business and in the music industry is they want to fill songwriters' heads with all the cynicism of their personal experience. They want to tell them all the ways that right now the world is not the way it was 20 years ago, and it's not going to work for them, right? And so a lot of people get talked out of their dreams. They get talked out of, being who they are and chasing that thing that is burning in them to do. I believe that you should follow your heart. Your heart is going to lead you to some kind of crazy adventure that will teach you something so amazing about you. It will change you in so many ways. All your dreams may not come true. And that vision you have in your head of how it could go may not happen like that at all. But something more magical might happen, right? You might become a version of you that you never thought possible. And the person you look at in the mirror every day could be someone you're really proud of because you didn't let anybody talk you out of who you are.
Oh my gosh.
And I would just really encourage songwriters to not be so ready to jump on American Idol or put themselves out there until they feel very sturdy in who they are as an artist and what they're here to say. And if that takes 5 years, that's okay. If that takes 10 years, that's okay. You don't have to be in a hurry to put yourself out there to the world. You can keep that relationship of music yours, and you can keep it very personal for as long as you feel like you need to gestate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't feel ready to put myself out into a public sector until I was almost in my 20s. And then I got this opportunity and I knew I wasn't ready. And so I actually denied the opportunity and went back to writing and went back to performing and then I took 10 years before I went at it again. And I was ready by that time. I had lived enough life. I'd had enough experiences under my belt, and I knew who I was. I wasn't so easily shook by people's criticism. Mm-hmm. And so not being in a big rush, really think about this relationship you have with music as a lifetime love affair, and when your love is new, what do? You kind of keep it to yourself, right? Yeah. Before you, it's just you and that love for a while before you have anyone over for dinner, right? And I think we need to be like that with our music, like let's keep it close and protect it. And sometimes it's not ready for somebody's opinion. So don't give it to them. Yeah. Don't give it to them until you're ready to hear what people have to say, and then disregard at least half of it, if not 75%.
That's great.
That is great advice.
Great advice. Yes.
I love that so much.
Me too.
It's true that industry kind of chews them up and spits them out too, or makes them something that they aren't. And
yes,
what industry or business wants them to be rather than what they're trying to be.
Yes.
So that is fantastic.
Perfect advice. Yes. I couldn't agree more.
So now it's time for your shameless plug. Where can we find your music? Where can we do your website, Bandcamp, all of that, social media?
Yes, I am totally findable. So I'm on, the places, the social medias. So like the Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify and stuff. I'm going to say that my absolute favorite place in the world is Patreon. And, So I've been on Patreon almost 10 years, and I love that community there. And a lot of people are jumping off of social media right now. And I think Patreon and Substack are great places to follow your favorite artists and support them there so that we can continue to do what we do and continue to have voices in this world right now. I do have a .com, roosterblackspur.com, of course. And like I said, I'm on all the different websites you can find. But definitely try Patreon. If you haven't, look up your favorite artist, look me up there. There's now you can join for free, so you can try it out. And then if you want to, you can pay tiers. But just join for free and see what's on there. Lots of artists have months worth of stuff that if you spent an afternoon, I post things on there I would never share on YouTube. I'd never put them out to the public, right? But I share with that group of people because we have a closer relationship there. We're away from social media, and I don't have to filter myself, and I don't have to, and I have my own little kind of podcast there that I check in with my Patreon supporters. So I'm always rooting for Patreon. It was a platform made by creators for creators, and it continues to support us, being able to afford our lives. I would not have lived through 2020 and the pandemic had I not been supported by my Patreon supporters. And it continues to give me what I need to continue recording music and creating. So, and mostly it's where I go to be inspired by people who love and support me, and that's the most, it's like a community. Yeah.
I think Patreon and Bandcamp are just amazing places for artists and creatives. So, well, we want to thank you so much for taking this time.
So much fun.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Yay. Well, it's so good to talk to you guys, meet you guys. Thank you for highlighting songwriters.
Yes.
Thank you for making our voices louder than we can make them ourselves. Thank you.